Hi, my name is Dallas, and in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a centralized test bank repository on the instructor level so that you can serve up quiz and exam questions from one location in Canvas and use that one location to manage, delete, revise all of your different test banks, making it easier and quicker to make corrections, deletions, and revisions. So let's go ahead and take a look. The first thing that you're going to need in order to create your test bank repository is a sandbox class, a practice class, it's also known as, or just an empty Canvas shell. If you don't have one, you might consider asking your Canvas admin to set you up with a practice shell or set you up with another shell. And if they're somewhat reluctant, I suggest pizza, coffee, ice cream can help kind of lubricate the way to getting a practice class. Right. Once you have your practice class, you may want to go ahead and give it something named, like I've got this practice shell here, and I'm going to go ahead and give it a name that says test banks. And later what I'm going to do is put that in my my list of courses up here, my quick courses, so they can have quick access to it. So I'm going to put it up here. Okay. So it looks like that. So I've got quick access to where my test banks are located. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and update the course details there. And now, so I've got my empty class shell, there's nothing in it, and I'm going to go ahead and start importing content. So the way I'm going to do that is go over here, I'm going to import content into this course. And what I need to do is import all of my test questions, my quiz questions from all my other courses so that I get them into one course. And from that one empty course, I'm not going to do anything else with this course except use it as a repository and get all my questions in that way. All right? So I'm going to go ahead and select a course to import. Once I've got my course selected, I'm going to tell it I want to select specific content and then tell it to import. Now I'm going to select my content, and there's a couple of different ways to do this. I can go to quizzes and get this down. So I've got these quizzes, and I can import it quiz by quiz, and I can pull in all my questions that way. But I can also just go for the question banks. If you use question banks and already have your everything sorted into question banks and named, like you can see here, I've got no names. I'm going to have to go back and name some of these. I can go ahead and just grab my question banks, or I can grab individual quizzes if I want. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to repeat that process for every place that I've got quiz questions out there in Canvas that I want to pull into my repository for centralized management. I'm going to go ahead and import those into my practice class. Now, once I've imported all the quiz questions and quiz banks that I care to, I can go to the quizzes tool over in Canvas. And I've only got one quiz here, but quizzes aren't what we really need to worry about here. What we're going to do is hit that gear and manage our question banks. So now you can see I've got all of these question banks in here, and ideally I'm going to go in and look and make sure I've got these named right, and so that I know what they are. But in order to have access to the repository and what it contains in other courses, I want to bookmark all of these banks. And what bookmarking is going to do is going to give me access to these test banks in my other Canvas courses. Right? So once I've got these bookmarked, I can now go over into another course and pull questions in from my centralized repository. So at this point, I'm ready to start a new quiz using my quiz repository. I've started a new quiz here. I'm going to add some questions. I'm going to add a question group. Now I can import and find questions. I can find questions and I can make them static. So I can pull them in, make them static. But the problem with that approach is that if I make changes or deletions or additions, then the questions that I just pull in with the find questions won't be updated, and those question pools won't be updated. So I like to link to a question bank. Now there are some costs to this approach, and one of the costs here is that the quiz analytics doesn't do well with what I'm about to do, which is pull in questions from a test bank and have them randomized so that each student gets a little bit different of a test. Quiz Analytics doesn't really like that, so if Quiz Analytics is important for you, you probably don't want to link to the question bank unless you're going to give every question in that question bank. If there are 10 questions in the bank and you give each student all 10, then you'll be okay with this approach. Anyway, what I like to do is randomize things, so I'm going to, and here are all of my, if you look, I've got all of my test banks from my test bank shell that are there. And now I can, I've got them all marked nicely and named. And so I can go in and just pick one and say I'm going to select that bank. I want to pick 5 questions from that bank worth 2 points each. And then I'm going to create the group. And the effect of this is I've got my centralized test bank repository, and I've pulled in questions to a quiz in a course different from my test bank repository. And now I've got a dynamic quiz where it's going to always serve up questions to the student from that test bank. So now even if I've got, this like 6 or 7 different quizzes and different Canvas shells or classes using this test bank, if I make changes to the test bank itself, those changes are going to reflect in each student's quiz as they take the quiz. It's going to update dynamically, in other words. Right? So if you delete a question, if you alter a question, if you add a question, you do not have to go back into each quiz with this approach and change it. So it really makes it a useful time-saving feature for managing quiz questions and serving up quizzes. I hope that you have found this tutorial helpful, and have a nice day. If you have any questions, or feel free to contact me. You can contact me. My email is on the screen. All right. Thanks for watching.